Hi, this is Chloe here at Inner Whispers. Today I'm going to be doing a video review of the Zombie Apocalypse Tarot by Joe Frost. This deck is self-published through GameCrafter. One thing that I wanted to comment on is the fact that it comes without a box per se, just with a tarot bag, and then it's in a big GameCrafter box, which is way too big to get into this screen. Here you see the reversible backs of the cards. However, as you may notice, they aren't actually fully centered. And this was something that actually a different self-publishing author had commented to me about, because she wasn't doing her deck through GameCrafter precisely because of this issue that they can't guarantee to have the images perfectly centered. As you see, some of the cards are worse. This is one of the better ones, actually. However, it doesn't seem to affect the images on the front. The deck is called the Zombie Apocalypse Tarot, and as you can imagine, therefore, gruesome zombie pictures are very much the bread and butter of this deck. Each card is borderless, has the title in a box at the bottom. The majors have the Roman numeral at the top and the title there. And each one also has a credit. The photos are actually from different people, and each one is credited at the bottom. So these are all people who do zombie type pictures, I guess. One of my objections to this deck is the fact that these are basically zombie images rather than necessarily being tarot images. So we don't really have the suit elements on hardly any of the cards. And really, you know, one zombie guy is much like another zombie guy, or yet another zombie guy, or a zombie guy with more chameleon-like skin and a cowboy outfit, or a zombie guy in a hat. And the fact that some of these are majors and some of them are pentacles and wands and cups just really doesn't figure. They're just, some of them, a punk zombie guy. And why should a punk zombie guy be the Four of Cups? That really doesn't make much sense to me. I quite like the Hermit as zombie guy because he is that bit different, and the grey ashenness of him reminds me of Hindu sadhus. They're kind of holy men. But then we have the Hanged Man, and the only sort of hanged thing about him is the fact that he's wearing a dog collar, which doesn't really speak to me quite so much. So these are, shall we say, from my perspective, some of the weakest cards in the deck. We also have a few cards which I don't quite get, and maybe that's just that I need to spend a bit more time with them. I'm not sure where this Temperance card is coming from, or how this relates to the Seven of Swords. So these are more group shots. And then there are a bunch of couples cards, shall we say. So I guess, you know, having the lovers as a couple makes sense. But why is the Three of Wands a couple? The Two of Pentacles has some interest to it. But once again, the Five of Swords, I don't really see the relationship, nor the Seven of Pentacles. And there's not a huge amount of variety there. We also have a similar issue with some of the queens, that they're just female zombies with nothing to indicate their suit, really. And a few more female zombies without much suit implications. Here she has got a blindfold, but that's about the only nod to traditional ideas. And here there's nothing at all that says to me Five of Wands. There's something here about childhood and sadness. I could see this more, I don't know, as the Five of Pentacles perhaps. There are also a number of cards which use skeletons. And I have to say, having a skeleton for death makes sense, but just isn't all that striking when there are so many other skeletons on other cards. and bones. However, there are quite a lot of cards here which I think have a subtle sense of humour and that do relate to more traditional tarot imagery. For example, the Nine of Pentacles, where we normally have a kind of bird of prey indicating the time that's been spent learning some skills. Well, here she's being kind of attacked by birds. The Page of Pentacles is kind of studious in his glasses. And I quite like this Queen of Wands. She does have quite a sociable look to her in a bizarre, crazy, staring face way. And the Queen of Swords, likewise, I don't know, something about the silver of that bolt that's driven through her does make me think of a sword. Likewise, the Six of Swords does have this sense of movement across water, perhaps, with the moving bird and this figure and the water in the background, so that has some subtle details. And I have to admit to liking this Knight of Swords, who reminds me of other Knight of Swords biker guys, of which there are several. For example, the Vanessa Tarot or the soon-to-be-released Darkana Tarot. The Three of Swords is quite subtle, which is something I like. And this King of Cups almost works for me. He has this sailor thing going on, which does hint at the suit of cups. However, I would have expected a king to be a captain rather than just a marine. And the Five of Pentacles, that feeling of being stuck on the outside, I do think works. Likewise, if only there were 3 schoolgirls on this card, it would be perfect. But even as it is, I quite like it. I like its humour. Not absolutely all the cards are gruesome. There are quite a lot of subtle cards which I think work quite well. And these ones also tend to be quite appropriate to tarot symbolism and imagery. A sort of nostalgic sepia tone to this Six of Cups with the small child, even though it's still gruesome. The Ace of Swords. And some interesting, more subtle images for some of the majors, such as Judgment, moving on, is this a dead end? The Star, absolutely beautiful. The Tower with its churchy influences, and a blood-red moon. The World being a cemetery, this is where they've all risen from and maybe will return to eventually. But it isn't just the fact that these cards are more subtle that makes me like them, because there are some pretty gruesome ones that I also think are hilarious and work well within the notions of the tarot. This is an Ace of Wands, new beginnings, trying to get out, action, movement, the birth of something. A very gruesome devil, and yet it does really represent ideas of fear and doubt and thoughts and all kinds of stuff, so that works for me. Likewise, the Empress, even though this is another female zombie, I think because of her outfit and so on, it works a lot better than some of the others. Likewise, there is a couples card, which for zombies I think works brilliantly. This Two of Cups romantic couple, because of the way that they're dressed as well and their matching wounds, I just think is quite hilarious and works very well. So too the King of Swords, because of his very spiky helmet, I think is appropriate. And we have an interesting shamanistic voodoo type high priestess, who I think works well. Once again, a slightly more subtle but very appropriate Nine of Swords for fears and nightmares, worries and doubts. And some cards which just make me outright laugh, like the zombie brain sucker, who actually the photographic credit is for soulstealer.co.uk. The corporate zombie, perfect. And there's certainly a lot of greed to be seen in this Four of Pentacles zombie dude. Quite subtle and yet powerful in the sun, and a zombie lion for the strength. Can't help laughing at this Elvis look-alike King of Pentacles, and a very happy-go-lucky zombie fool. the Chariot is another that makes me laugh, though it's a little bit of a shame that the title number is obscuring the face of the second zombie. And here too, a quite gruesome Ten of Cups, but it does retain the traditional tarot ideas of what the Ten of Cups should represent, so I go for that. Likewise, though we've had other zombie guys with stuff sticking out of them, I like this for the Nine of Wands because these are wands-like arrows that are sticking out of him, and that sense of persevering in the face of hardship really yells out to me. And the Eight of Swords, where you're fighting to get out. So too, I think, in terms of tools through faces, here we have the Three of Pentacles, an older guy, that sense of craftsmanship, he has a proper tool to work with, whereas the Apprentice 8 is younger and just has a rough bolt. Celebration and weddings in the Four of Wands, and more subtle fear and sadness, an appropriate Hierophant, and finally an extra card for this particular deck, Undeath at 22. It's quite a gruesome deck. If you don't like that, don't get it. But I do think it has a sense of humour, and if that's your kind of thing, go for it. I hope you found this review useful and that you'll come back again soon. In the meantime, please listen to your own inner whispers.